Now today, another attack of drones happened on Ukraine. Iranian drones again attacking civilian targets. Putin loves that. He actually, among the victims, was a pregnant woman, and yeah, it's a sad attack, but that's what Putin enjoys doing. And by the way, Mark, there is another attack on Kiev. Is it drones? Yeah, it is drones. They send drones for the third time from Crimea. Hey, from Crimea, that's a long distance, so they're pretty capable in terms of distance. Yeah, they can fly for 1,000 kilometers easily, and if the wind is favorable, then they can even go further, because they're basically a one-wing structure, so yeah, they're pretty effective. Before that, we had a second wave. We shot them all down, all 16 of them. Third wave, according to preliminary data, yeah, we hope we'll shoot them down. They're working this now. Overall, in our today's stats, we reported 62 drones. According to preliminary analysis, we shot down 36. First wave, 28 were shot down, 5 came through. Second wave, we shot everything down. Now we have about 8. Let's see how many of them get through. But it does have a very uncomfortable side to that we need to talk about. It results in us wasting our missile stockpiles much faster. Air defense missiles, right? Yeah, the ones that we use to shoot the drones down. 68 per day. So they launched the first volley of drones, they oversaturated our air defense, we shot them down, and then after that, on the heels of that offensive, they shot another 16. And we managed to get rid of the second wave too, but most of it. But the problem is that we are starting to use our air defense missiles much more intensively. And in general, it's a rather stupid situation where you have to use missiles against drones. Much better, much more effective weapon would be Zenith artillery, Rheinmetall and these companies. So that's a question to our allies and to see if they manage to scramble and help us a little. You think they'll react? Because I think it's a little easier with the Zenith artillery. Yeah, it's not too sophisticated, since we already have missile defense. This is actually a lesser, not even an escalation. But if you have, for example, 4 or 5 batteries that shoot down those 15 drones, that's much cheaper than shooting 15 missiles at them, because drone costs a certain amount of money, and missile is definitely more expensive. So they found some kind of key to our air defense, and they're making us waste our ammo on these drones. According to our data, we estimate they have 2,400. So the first one was much smaller, the first shipment was small, the second shipment was definitely a big one, so they have a lot. If they have indeed 2,400 at 100 drones per day, that's intense. That's an intense month. And if we live through a couple months of attacks like that in that regime, we definitely need Zenith artillery protection. It's a very principal matter. Do you think that'll get resolved? We'll see, maybe. Hard to tell. Okay. Let's approach it from a different direction. Should Iran be brought to question on this? Because publicly they deny supplying drones to Moscow, but it's obvious that they are supplying drones. And Western media are starting to publish even more data saying that maybe Iran even is going to supply missiles to Moscow, some kind of missiles. Well, probably too early to talk about missiles, but indeed, if they do supply their ballistic missiles with 500, 700 mile radius, that'll be a bit sad for our front. How do you think that can be countered? Well, there are a couple countries who can destroy the warehouses and supplies in Iran, Israelis and Americans. But would they start a war with Iran to prevent them from supporting Russia? Well, we're just discussing that, right? But yeah, that's a big question. Do you think Saudis and other countries in the area have enough resources to destroy Iranian production? Well, theoretically, yeah, they do have aviation. But it means that will result in a big war in the Gulf. Are they going to start a big war in the Gulf for Ukraine? Do you think America can? America could. Yeah, America could hit the targets in Iran, but are they ready for a big war in the Gulf or even an air operation? So you think if the missile hits the factory, that'll cause war in the Gulf? It might cause a certain response from Iran, and they'll probably be attacking American military installations in the Gulf. I remember when Soleimani was assassinated. Yeah, it was not too long ago. It was December of the 20th. So I don't know if Israel, Saudis, and United States will jointly attack Iran manufacturing sites. I don't know. That's a too far away proposition. Perhaps a much more effective one and easier to organize one would be to pull from a nuclear deal with Iran. Because Iran is violating everything they can. And by the way, Europe is taking certain stance on that, because Borrell mentioned that they are gathering proof, they're gathering material, verification, they're gathering elements of the shot down drones, and they need to verify that, okay, this is indeed Iranian production. And they will respond with a certain type of sanctions to Iran. That's what they said. So right now the diplomatic situation between Ukraine and Iran is almost nil. We just left a bare bone diplomatic structure. System. We don't have full diplomatic representation between each other, even though Iran is claiming to be neutral. They're also starting to supply Mujahid 6. This is similar to Bayraktar UAV, and this is a rather significant threat, and it's a systemic problem for the front, for us. All right. What if we consider that the terms of this deal, and Iran indeed went for that escalation? If indeed Moscow promised to give Iran some nuclear technologies, nuclear weapons technologies, which can be deduced. I'm not saying this is exactly what it is, but this is a pretty obvious deduction from this situation. And then motivation of Israel and allies might increase. Well, yes, but Israel will probably be hitting not the drone production, but the nuclear targets. So this is a big question. Do you think drones can exchange the balance of powers on the front? I'm not talking about infrastructure. They can keep attacking the infrastructure, we understand, all the time. But what about the front? In that significant number, if they send 1,000 on the front line, yeah, we'll feel it. Ukraine, after Kharkov success, our collective subconscious started feeling that the war is far away again, and we got our version of internal public contract that the army is fighting over there, and we are prevailing and everything is peachy. But no, I think we're entering the second phase of this war when the enemy figured a few ways to try to break our defense, and they're saturating their troops with mobilized people who even, shoot in the air, but they still exist and they still are present on the front. And we're getting to the second phase of the war. The general big phase, obviously the first one was also comprised of different stages, but the second one is going to be significant. It will require us to mobilize both militarily, psychologically, everybody who helps us, volunteers and organization people supplying different items and ammo and all. So we all need to be ready for that psychologically, because we are still mobilizing more people to the front. And that's back to the question, are we letting people out of the country or not? Well, once again, if they throw 1 million Russian mobilized troops on the border, on the front line, we will need to mobilize more to counter that. Yeah, the dramatic side of that situation is obvious. Another question is, Western allies can call this problem if they do manage to supply all these systems that we talked about. Zenith artillery systems to fight drones and other measures. Why don't they do that, you think? So far, they are working not in the extraordinary mode, but in the planned mode. So we do have plans, and they follow the plans. However, right now with new developments, the numbers we have in these plans are not enough for resolving the current issues on the front. We definitely need to review these plans and multiply military supplies, including that if we need to mobilize more troops, we'll even need more clothes, helmets, machine guns, rifles. With that, I think it'll be easier. But both us and Western allies need to realize that Putin's regime figured a few ways to make our life more difficult, and we need to be coming up with a practical, real answer. Because we've been waving, saying, hey, we'll take Svatovo, we'll take Kherson. They are precluding us from doing that with the current developments on the front. So it is not so simple.